Good morning. It is 9 a.m. on December 19th, 2023, and this meeting of the Board of Bonner County Commissioners is called to order. I am Chairman Luke Ahmet, and Vice Chair Steve Bradshaw is present, as well as Commissioner Asia Williams. Please rise for our invocation with Pastor Jim Kubiak.
Y'all join me in a word of prayer. Father, thank you for these commissioners and the role they play in administering the responsibilities for which they have been empowered by you and the people of this county to carry out. May your abundant wisdom and discernment guide the considerations and deliberations of this meeting. May each decision, policy, ordinance, rule, and regulation reflect your heart of justice, righteousness, and peace, so that each individual in this county has the greatest opportunity to flourish. May everything that transpires here today reflect the character and nature of your Son and our Lord Jesus Christ, in whose precious name we pray. Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Our first item on the agenda today will be Robert's Rules of Order and Standing Rules. But before we do that, the purpose of the regular business meeting is for the Board of County Commissioners to conduct the business of Bonner County publicly. Regular business meetings do not constitute public hearings wherein the public has the right to be heard on every agendized item. However, at the discretion of the chair, everyone may be afforded an opportunity to speak on a particular issue if recognized by the chair. Any unrecognized comments or disruptive behavior will be grounds for removal from the board meeting by the chair and may subject the person being removed to criminal prosecution according to law. The purpose for the public comment segment of the Board of County Commissioners business meeting is to enable citizens with issues or concerns which they wish to bring to the board's attention and afford an opportunity for consideration on a future agenda for possible board action. The board will not engage in dialogue with the presenter during this session, but rather may choose to schedule the presenter's topic for board consideration at a future business meeting. Questions may be directed to individual board members for the purpose of clarifying issues or to obtain additional information for the purpose of scheduling the matter for a future business meeting. However, no action will be taken on any issue or concern brought to the board's attention during this session. The chair will not entertain under any circumstances comments derogatory in nature toward any board member, staff member, elected official, or member of the public. And that will bring me back to the first part of Bonner County Ordinance 1-200. Regular business meetings do not constitute public hearings wherein the public has the right to be heard on every agendized items. Because of the comments that have been made by board members, and especially last week where there was accusations against our clerk for doing their job, the chair will no longer entertain public comments on agendized items. And I am issuing a warning from the beginning of this meeting that if there are cries from the public of tyranny or etc., that we will take a pause and we will address it. There will be an opportunity for members of the public to comment, and it is agendized, and it is in accordance with Idaho Code 74-204. Our first agendized item was placed by myself, and it's the Bonner County Board of Commissioners, and there are handouts for the standing rules up here if members of the public are interested in seeing what this is. The Bonner County Board of Commissioners adopted Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised, as a framework for Bonner County public meetings on July 18th, 2023. The attached rules are intended to provide a uniform process for agendizing and conduct during Bonner County business meetings. All items to be agendized for the regularly scheduled business meeting will follow the BOCC meeting agenda submission procedure, which is attached. Action items without an attached memorandum with a written motion will not be considered. The chair presides over the meeting and will conduct meetings in accordance with state statute, county ordinance, and the standing rules. The chair is responsible for enforcing the rules and designating who is to speak at any given time. Sergeant at Arms will assist with enforcing the rules. Number 3, all remarks will be addressed through the chair to include the BOCC elected officials and their deputies, employees, and members of the public. 4, there will be no debate on discussion items or motions without a second. 5, debate on all motions will be limited to twice per speaker and 5 minutes per time. Debate can be extended or limited by a majority vote of the BOCC. 6, remarks will be confined to the merits of the pending question, the motion, and remarks must be germane to the motion on the floor. 7, when a question or motion is pending, the proposed motion, not the member, is the subject of debate. Personal or ad hominem attacks will be considered out of order, and under no circumstances will attacks against a member or their motivation be considered appropriate. Debate against or for the question or motion must be confined to the merits of the motion. 8, any ruling of the chair can be appealed and overturned with the majority vote. 9, the National Association of Counties, the right way to run a meeting guide is the reference for meeting norms, and if this passes, it will be posted. 10, these rules are not and cannot be the totality of all BOCC activity. Federal law, state law, and relevant county ordinances may also be applicable to BOCC matters. Now with that, I will step down from the chair and move to approve the standing rules as presented. Is there a second?
I will second that.
There is a motion and a second. Is there discussion amongst the Board of Commissioners?
I have none.
I think this is a significant change in the feeling of Bonner County in the wrong direction, especially given I watched what happened last week and your statements from today. That would just be my comment on this.
Is there any further discussion amongst the board?
I have none.
Roll call vote.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
The standing rules are adopted. The next order of business is to adopt the order of agenda.
Yeah, make a motion to amend the order of agenda and move the commissioner's report in front of the public comment and move the public comment after the commissioner reports.
I will step down from the chair and second the motion to amend. Is there any discussion?
I don't agree with the motion to amend. I think people come knowing where they are in the discussion. If there's a desire to change the order of the agenda in that way, we should just change it for the next meeting, not for the meeting that the people are here present for. And I think that was something that was expressed by the community at large when this occurred at the last time, especially given the presentation at the start of this meeting. It would be it's a soft hand to the public who came to this meeting. The first argument that was made when this was changed last 2 weeks ago was out of consideration of people. And we're going to further push the public down the line, which makes it more difficult for people to participate that have to work. So I don't think it should change to the bottom. If anything, I think they should go back to the top so that people can make it go to work after they make a comment.
My response is I will also be posting this. This is the Idaho Association of Counties Open Meeting Advanced Session, which was a presentation on March 23rd, 2023 by Brian Church, Office of the Attorney General. Idaho Code 74-204 makes clear that Idaho Code is silent on the order of the agenda. There must be an agenda, it must be posted, and it must be done according to law. However, the manner in which the agenda is carried out is open to each particular body. And what the open meeting law, which is on page 36, part 4, what the open meeting law does not address, how the chair is supposed to conduct the meeting, whether some parliamentary procedure guide will be used, and whether public input will be accepted. And the final one, it says, is work with your legal counsel on these issues.
So do we give the impression to the public that we care less and less every time we push it farther and farther down the agenda? Because all you stated was you have the ability to push public comment anywhere in the agenda. But I'm asking for consideration of the public, who some have actually taken time off of work to come here to participate, which has always been the manner of Bonner County Commission meetings. We've always allowed public comment to go first. Some people want to pop in and say something and then leave. I don't think it's reasonable to say because I can, I shall. What's the reason in specific to the public that we should push their public comment out so that people can wait longer is not reasonable. I think we should show care and concern for public participation.
Thank you for that, Commissioner, and I will bring to your attention the standing rules that were just adopted that says we are not here to question the motivations, but we are here to deal with the merits of that question.
So you questioned
And
me, I didn't question merits, so don't accuse me in a
Excuse me,
meeting.
Commissioner, I was
You're
speaking.
not going to accuse me of doing something I said you should consider. I didn't accuse you. So be clear with your verbiage if you're going to say something. I said, please consider. So you're not going to overtalk me with your statement of rebuke if it wasn't accurate, if we want to follow these rules.
Is there any further discussion before proceeding to the vote?
I have none.
Roll call vote on the motion to amend the order of agenda to put the commissioners' reports before the public comment.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
The motion carries and the order of agenda has been amended. Our next agendized item is the consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, based on the information before us, I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I will step down from the chair and second the motion for discussion. Is there discussion?
I'm going to abstain on this one for the agenda only because I want to make sure there's no appearance of, because there's some Blanchard stuff specific on this that you, and I wasn't here for that, so I'll abstain.
Okay, and for the members of the public, there are two expenditures of over $5,000 that will be, actually, I'll wait till the next one with Clerk Rosedale.
There's a hand.
There is no public comment on these items. Thank you, Mr. Rosedale. But there are, I will address the items over 5K and then we will proceed. So hearing no further discussion, roll call vote.
Well, I actually have a question since you made that comment. If you're going to take advanced questions with specifically the over 5K is because members of the public have expressed they want to know that, are you going to allow other members of the public to submit a question on an agenda item that we answer without allowing them to speak in the meeting? Because that's what would be happening with what you just proposed. And that's not equitable across the entire community. If we're only saying, because we know that when we hear 5,000, everybody knows we're saying, Mr. and Mrs. Patterson, this is that item. Are we going to afford that opportunity to other people in the community?
That's actually item number 4 on the consent agenda.
Right, but the reason we're doing it, we have agendized answering a question that we know is going to come. So are we going to allow that for other members of the community is my question.
If members of Bonner County were to present questions to me prior to a meeting, I would take them into consideration. But going back to the motion before us on the floor is in regards to the consent agenda. Thank you for bringing that point of order to my attention, Commissioner. And there are two items. Number 4, one is a confidential item for the office of the sheriff, which is $11,520. And the second one is Team Viewer Remote Management, which is for the Idaho Supreme Court, which is for technology, which is final software renewal. Is there any further debate or discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Yes?
Yes,
Yes.
the motion carries. Our next agendized item is Clerk Rosedale.
Good morning, everybody. Morning, Commissioners. We have a holiday next Tuesday, so the claims batch would normally be, and demand would normally be next Tuesday, but since we don't have Tuesday, we're doing it this Tuesday to try to make sure that all the bills get paid. Commissioners, before you, I have claims batch number 6 in the amount of $550,239.73. And demand batch number 6 in the amount of $636,140.37, totaling $1,141,945.37. $186,380.10 for your approval. And I can talk about those if you'd like.
I would appreciate that.
Okay, we have $143,000 in a medical payment. The other monster one is $400,000 in the solid waste USDA loan payment for the Colburn project. Those are the two lines. We have $15,000 for Delta Dental, $16,000 for fuel, and $20,000 for postage. Those are the meat of the demands.
20,000 for postage, is that most likely from the treasurer's office?
It could be.
Tax bills, or
It could be.
out by
They have to meter that all the time. They do the entire counties. All the counties mail. So
I move to approve payment of the FY24 claims and demands in batch number 6, totaling $1,186,380.10.
I'll second the motion.
There is a motion and a second. Is there any discussion amongst the board?
I'm going to abstain from voting on the claims batch. So if you guys look historically, what has been happening under this board is we put something in the claims batch, and I reviewed this process. When we vote on the claim batch, if we actually didn't go back and look line by line, it actually counts as a decision. So to avoid voting for something that I don't agree with, given that I just got here this morning, I'm going to abstain from voting on it because I haven't reviewed every single line item to make sure, and I encourage the community to do the same because we are sliding bills into claims batches and only telling you some of the ones that hit our radar.
Is there any further discussion amongst the Board of Commissioners?
None?
Hearing none, roll call vote.
Abstain?
Yes,
Yes.
the motion carries.
okay, I'm not aware of any sliding bills, but next I have fiscal year 24 EMS batch number 6 in the amount of $16,032.24, and demands in EMS batch number 6 in the amount of $6,137.99, totaling $22,170.23 for your approval.
To in real time respond to the comment, we renewed a membership for NACO that didn't come to the board for actual review and approval for that assignment. We put the bill in the claims batch, and when the bill was paid, we had a membership. So that is what I am referencing. I don't agree with that process. It is, however, legal to do. So I'm not making something up. So I want to make sure if someone says something that's not accurate, that I address it. That's what I'm referencing.
Okay.
So I move to approve payment of the FY24 EMS claims and demands in batch number 6, totaling $22,170.23.
Second that?
There is a motion and a second. Is there any discussion amongst the Board of Commissioners?
I did review all of the EMS bills and will be prepared to make a vote on those.
Is there any further discussion amongst the Board of Commissioners? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Yes?
Yes,
Yes.
the motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Clerk Rosedale.
Sure. If anybody has any questions about this or anything in my office, I encourage you to come talk to me. I would love to talk to you personally about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Clerk Rosedale. Our next agendized item is Road and Bridge with Jason Top, and I'm looking to see if he is.
He was up there a while ago.
I'm on there right now.
There you are. Hey, go ahead, Director.
Good morning, Commissioners. I got 3 items for you guys today. The first one is to add unanticipated funds to our fiscal 24 budget, 0028490, which is our plant asphalt. Idaho Code 31-1605 provides that the Board of County Commissioners may adjust the budget as adopted, provided that there shall be no increases in the anticipated property taxes. That being said, Bonner County Road and Bridge received in our 4th quarter payment unanticipated revenue from 0024680 state revenue for the sum of $701.77. These funds, these are the funds that came from our actual and was distributed throughout the local jurisdictions by a percentage depending on population. We also received an unanticipated revenue from 0024540 highway user for the sum of $115,000 $781.71, and from HB 312 for the sum of $99,938.98. For those of you that don't know a highway user, what these are, those are money from the county's vehicle fees and taxes distributed by the state of Idaho. HB 312 taxes, those are revenues from increased gas taxes that we receive as well. Whereas Bonner County has projects that we've started for and we're proposing to increase our county road and bridge line item 0028490 plant mix for a total of $636,442.50. As these funds could assist in asphalt projects in fiscal 24. That number is a total of all unanticipated revenue. Road and Bridge requests the county commissioners authorize the clerk to open the fiscal 24 budget and add unanticipated revenue to the road and bridge review budget for a total increase of $636,442.50. Please reference the attached budget amendment resolution.
All right, I move to approve Resolution 2023-102, authorizing the clerk to open the Road and Bridge FY 2024 budget and add unanticipated revenues to the Bonner County Road and Bridges B budget for the sum of $636,442.50 as detailed in the resolution.
I second the motion.
There is a motion and a second. Is there any discussion amongst the Board of Commissioners?
Did the community clearly hear what he was saying because he broke up a couple times? So I didn't want to interrupt Jason when he was saying it, but it's basically money coming back into the budget. So I'll read what he was saying. So that's clear on the record. Bonner County Road and Bridge received in our fourth quarter payment unanticipated revenue from 0024680 state revenue for the sum of $420,701.77. These are funds that came from the excess tax revenue from the state and was distributed throughout local jurisdictions by percentage dependent on population. We also received unanticipated revenue from 0024540 highway user for the sum of $115,781.75 and from highway HB 312 for the sum of $99,938.98 for a total of $636,422.50 combined for the use in the FY 2024. So he's asking that we open the budget to deposit that money in there. Okay. You're welcome.
Is there any further discussion amongst the Board of Commissioners?
None.
I forgot to say, he said that there shall be no increase in anticipated property tax. Sorry, that one's important.
Hearing no discussion, roll call vote.
Yes.
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 The motion carries. Director Top, in the interest of the ability of those of us here to be able to hear what was said, because I'm not sure if you're traveling, I believe that was my understanding based upon a upcoming meeting. Would it be all right if one of the commissioners was to read into the record and you were to be available to answer questions, or do you feel that you would prefer to read what is before us into the record?
Either way is fine. I moved some stuff off my computer. I don't know if that made it any better for you guys.
Okay.
We can now hear you better. Let's try this next one, Director. This is your agendized item, and I would like to hear from the Director.
All right, the next one is actually a correction. And this was from bringing some unanticipated funds forward back in October that we did resolution.
Director,
It ain't
I'm
working.
sorry, it ain't working. I'm going to go and I'm going to read this into the record, and then please fill in we'll ask questions afterward. Idaho, this is Road and Bridge item number 2. Idaho Code 31-1605 provides that the Board of County Commissioners may adjust the budget as adopted, provided that there shall be no increase in anticipated property taxes. Bonner County Road and Bridge received unanticipated revenue from 032-4580, contributions and donations for the sum of $34,158. These are funds that come from the Turnbull estate that was set up for Road and Bridge and is used for safety projects throughout the county. Whereas a project has been started, we are proposing to increase Bonner County Road and Bridge's budget line item 032-8550, contributions and donations by $34,158, as these funds could assist in the Whiskey Jack West Odin Bay Road Connection project in fiscal year 2024. Road and Bridge requests the Commissioners authorize the clerk to open the fiscal year 2024 budget and add unanticipated revenue to Road and Bridge B budget for a total increase of $34,158. Please reference the attached budget amendment resolution. Director Top, is there anything that needs to be added?
Nope, not unless you guys have any questions.
I move to approve Resolution 23103, authorizing the clerk to open the Road and Bridge FY 2024 budget and add unanticipated revenues to the Bonner County Road and Bridges B budget for the sum of $34,158 as detailed in the resolution attached.
Second that.
There is a motion and a second. Is there any discussion amongst the Board of Commissioners? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
The motion carries. Our third road and bridge item is a fiscal year 2023 annual road and street financial report. And Director Top, I'm going to read the first part, but then I'm certainly going to ask you to give us some further meat and potatoes. Bonner County Road and Bridge Department requests approval of the attached fiscal year 2023 annual road and bridge financial report required by Idaho Code 40-708 to report money received and spent by the Road and Bridge Department during the budgetary period for the year. The certification shall be made by the 31st of December each year and published once as a legal notice between January 1st and January 15th. Also attached is a copy of the proposed legal notice. The auditor's office assisted with this report in providing the funding source information. The fiscal year 2023 annual road and street financial report includes actual funding from local, state, and federal sources along with actual expenditures. What else would you like us to know, Director?
Well, that's pretty much the meat and potatoes of it. It's definitely a report that we have to do every year. This report takes me several, hang on, let me scroll there. Sorry about that. This report takes me about 2 weeks to complete. I had to go through and rewrite almost every single formula as the state changed a few of their line items on the report so that our numbers would jive with where they're supposed to be going. What we're doing is we're reporting on all the funds that we received from the state, any federal funds at all, and taking our entire budget and showing exactly what we spent those funds on, where they went and why. And then that gets reported to the state. If we do not do this, then we do not receive these funds from the state the following fiscal year. So this is a big deal to actually get done. This did balance out, and everything worked out the way it should. So I have no other further comments unless you have some.
Are there any questions for Director Top from the board? I would entertain a motion.
Okay. Based on the information provided, I move to approve the FY 2023 annual road and street financial report and have the board certify and sign the report administratively.
I second the motion.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion amongst the board? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
The motion carries. Thank you, Director.
Yeah.
Our next agendized item is the Extension Office with Ms. Jensen.
Good morning, Jennifer Jensen from the Extension Office. And we have our proposal for snow removal. This winter maintenance proposal is from Lippert Excavation and Pipeline, Inc. For the snow removal from the Bonner County Extension Office parking area and entrance. For the parking lot snow removal, there will be a rate of $130 for a pickup with plow per hour. And snow will be cleared when a depth of 3 to 4 inches has accumulated. For the sidewalks, there will be a rate of $130 per hour with a quarter-hour minimum. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Has there been much change from last year's proposal?
So last year, we didn't utilize Lippert excavation. It was about 3 years ago prior to that we utilized that business for our snow removal. The last few years, it was the fairgrounds that had been removing our snow, and there had been no charge for that. But I know they're very busy with that, and with fuel increases, that didn't seem like it would be the best option, as we were advised it's probably not appropriate for one department to be paying another department for a service. So
I'm going to try to anticipate some questions that I think from people I know. Here, well, one of my questions is, did legal give an opinion that we can't ask the fair to do that, and they said not to?
Yes, so we had an MOU drafted with the fairgrounds, and when legal looked at it, they suggested that might not be the best option.
Did they give a recommendation to discontinue the MOU? Is that what you guys did?
I suggested, well, should we look at another contractor? And they said that might be a good idea, so.
Did you request more than one quote or just this quote?
Just this quote.
Okay. That's all of the questions I can anticipate, I think, as I look across the room.
I'll wait till after. Got any questions? I would entertain a motion.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, based on the information before us, I move to approve the winter maintenance proposal from Lippert Excavation and Pipeline, Inc. for the Bonner County Extension Office parking lot snowplow removal at a rate of $130 per hour per 3 to 4 inches, one daily, and the sidewalk snow removal rate of $130 per hour with a quarter-hour minimum, and allow the chairman to sign.
I'll second the motion to advance it for discussion.
There's a motion and a second. We'll now proceed to discussion amongst the board.
I would like to see legal's opinion on this as to why we couldn't utilize not having to pay for it, and if it's just a difference of drawing up a better MOU. And in the interest of getting quotes, I prefer to see more than just one quote to make sure we're getting the best rate for what we're trying to do, instead of just asking one firm for it, although I recognize all of the things you said are probably reasonable. But I'd like to know the why we couldn't figure out how to use our own supplies that we're already paying for. That's a hard one for me, because we have maintenance here. So that's my position on this particular one.
For myself, I can agree that there is some questions and concerns that are brought up based upon the information presented. But the safety of the public and the safety of the staff must take precedence in regards to that, and we've got to have safe passageway and navigation for the members of the public and our staff. And I would be open to pursuing this information, but the motion that is on the floor is for us to be able to have this snow plowing, and I am comfortable with this because I know that this is a reputable company, and avoiding snow in a North Idaho winter is not something that can be done.
And I believe it's below the threshold that requires to be put out for open bid.
I think that that's true with respect to what Commissioner Bradshaw said, that it's below the threshold. But I think we still have our due diligence to the community to ensure that we are, one, if we have the option for the bill to be zero, that we exhaust that option. And two, I'm going to remind this board that it's been weeks that I've asked for someone to manage our property with respect to the same arguments that you're willing to move forward with questions. And I will still comment that it has still not come up on a workshop, which the two of you are requiring, which still has the issues of the safety of the public, the safety of staff. And so if that hasn't risen to the urgency to do that for multiple projects, I think it's reasonable to just bring this back on the next time that we have agenda, or you could use a 24-hour meeting after we have obtained that information to move forward. It is not, when we're talking about public money, whenever we say, if I could say, I know these people, they're a great company, and I only asked one, there's always going to be that one person in the community that says, how do you know that company? Why did you choose them? You knew them. And so as a board, I think we should have more than one quote attempt. Doesn't mean they all have to answer, but we should say, we sent out a request or we called. This is the company that answered. But my bigger issue is, why can't we do it with what we already paid for? I mean, in our term, I believe we gave away a snow blower because we weren't using it. And that went to a different county. And so before we start paying for stuff, I would like to know why we're paying for it now when we weren't paying for it before. So that's my view on this issue.
The motion on the floor is for this contract. I have not heard of a motion to amend. Is there any further discussion? For myself, public safety and the reality of the North Idaho winter is very clear. And the safety of employees and the general public is going to remain my priority. Do you have any further comment? Hearing, roll call vote.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
The motion carries. And before you take off, when is your open house for the men? Because you have a platform here to be able to share with the members of the public.
Yes, we're having an open house at the Extension office today from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. Where we have some fun holiday activities, but also you can just come and learn more about the Extension programs that we offer. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Our next agendized item is the public defender, Mr. Hagelberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners. Luke Hagelberg, Public Defender. This morning, for your consideration, I have our FY 2023 County Indigent Expense Report. And what this is really is an accounting of every single dollar our office spent for FY 2023. We are required to track this to continue to receive funding from the state through the PDC. So at this point, I have reviewed the form, our comptroller has reviewed it, Clerk Rosedale has signed off, and if the board is willing to sign, we will submit this and, knock on wood, continue to receive funding for FY 2024. So that's all this is, and I know there will be some questions. So the total amount that our office spent for FY 2023, this includes salaries, benefits, conflict attorneys, expert witnesses, is 1.6 million. Now that is slightly up from last year, from 2022, but this is the first year our office did public defense for Boundary County. As part of that agreement, Boundary County pays us $250,000 per year. So if you include that, we are slightly, I think, under the final amount from FY 2022. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Public Defender Hagelberg? And hearing no further questions, I would entertain a motion on the floor.
Based on the information before us, I move to approve the FY 23 County Indigent Expense Report.
Second that.
There is a motion and a second. Is there any discussion amongst the Board of Commissioners? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
the motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Our next agendized item is the Sheriff's Office with Under Sheriff Rohr Lakewold.
Dun, 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 dun.
Morning, everyone. Rohr Lakewold for the record. So for your consideration this morning, this is a resolution for capital construction carryover. The Sheriff's Office is requesting to move $152,000, item 03461-9420, jail capital construction line item 0346-9420, jail/capital construction from fiscal year 23 to fiscal year 24. This has been approved by Legal and Rosedale.
And this is accounting for the one that was left out of the count, right?
This was the AC heat units, the pumps that we carried over. We did a to B transfer in the jail from jail salaries to jail budget to then transfer. We started the project in fiscal year 23, finished it in fiscal year 24, and so this would be carryover from that year, from last year to this year, to pay for the upgrade of the replacement of the AC units.
Am I forgetting that, wasn't there a one where we didn't have the correct number of units and that we?
So that was so that was an additional, I think 11,000 or something that was in 24, and I think that has been resolved.
Okay.
But this is not part of, this is paying for the initial project carryover.
Okay, thank you.
So and please correct me if I'm wrong, Under Sheriff. So for members of the public, Bonner County has a responsibility to provide a safe environment to our residents of Bonner County Jail. And right near the very end of our fiscal year, the AC and heating units went belly up. And actually, in an odd, weird twist of economic fate, we had previously received a bid that was significantly higher than the bid we received on this iteration. So in a really odd, confusing sort of way, them breaking at this time saved us, I want to say, wasn't it $40,000?
I don't remember the
I mean,
number.
it was a significant amount of funds from our previous bid.
That'll work.
But we, as a county, we have no choice but to provide an environment that the residents are, that they aren't freezing their tootsies off, and then during the summer that they aren't sweating them off. And this is something that had to be done, and it literally happened. I want to say it was around September 28th. Sheriff Wheeler brought it to our attention. The board met, we had a meeting, and this has happened. And there also had to be the work done during the fiscal year 2023. So I really want to commend the sheriff's office for that work being done. And now we are doing the cleanup so that we can be in compliance with law, and hopefully that our residents and our staff can be comfortable enough to do
everything's installed and working fantastic, and so the project is complete, and now we're just
Other units were only, what, 25 years old, give or take a year?
Yeah, give or take.
Yeah, they were due.
What the heck?
And actually, those new units will probably save us money on energy as well due to the increase in technology.
All right.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, based on the information before me, I move that the county approve Resolution 2023-104 to move $152,000 from FY23 03461/9420 to FY24 03461/9420 for the carryover on repair project of the heating and cooling units of the detention facility.
I second the motion.
There is a motion and a second. Is there any discussion amongst the Board of Commissioners? Hearing none. Roll call vote.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Under Sheriff.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas.
Stop. You got a Christmas present. I see it. You're wearing it.
Yeah. Our last agendized item is a request for a letter of support. And on one of the boards that I sit on is the Idaho Panhandle Forest. And Sam Owen, if anybody has not been there, is one of the jewels of northern Idaho. I have had the privilege of going there my entire life, and it is just an epic testament to recreation and the beauty of our lake and the importance of being able to maintain open spaces for our visitors and for our residents to have access to the lake. On Labor Day weekend 2020, an intense windstorm ripped across the campground, toppling and damaging hundreds of trees, including several that landed on vehicles and tents. Luckily, no one was hurt. A hazard tree assessment was then conducted by Forest Service personnel, And the assessment revealed that many of the trees remaining were structurally damaged during the storms and at risk of falling in whole or part if left standing. To address the risks, the hazard tree removal, treatment, and fuels reduction projects were conducted throughout the campground. The many treatment projects completed through the campground returned attention to the area, revealing the need to redesign, update amenities, and improve the largest campground on the Idaho Panhandle National Forest. Sam Owen Campground is the second largest Forest Service campground in the state of Idaho, as well as within the northern region. The campground is situated on a peninsula on the east side of Lake Pend Oreille. The property was donated to the Forest Service in 1941 by the Owen family. The property was intended by the Owen family to be used as a public recreation site in perpetuity. This makes it especially important for the Idaho Panhandle National Forest to ensure that the site is well cared for and open to campers. The campground is a highly popular recreation site offering 82 campsites close to the lake with a beach, boat launch, and dock for visitor public use. Swimming, boating, camping, hiking, and biking are just a few of the many world-class recreation opportunities the area provides. The campground receives high visitor use and is valued by the public. The campground operates from the middle of May to the end of September. The occupancy rate is around 75% during the 135-day season, and most of the vacancies resulting from last-minute cancellations due to bad weather. And then the scope of the work, and individuals can find this on there, but there is new spurs, pull-through spurs, double spurs, accessible spurs, camp areas. They're going to put in asphalt, which will support the use and increase the life of the existing pavement. Fog seal, other appropriate applications to all of the existing loops, and design camp living areas. They're also going to improve the host site utilities connection, the site furniture. One of the things that was definitely brought to our attention, though, was the intention of the Forest Service to honor the legacy of this treasure and not make remarkable changes to the site as it has existed. And so this letter is a request for a letter of support from Bonner County. And as such, I will step down from the chair and move to approve the letter of support for the Sam Owen Campground Improvement Project on the Idaho Panhandle National Forest.
I second the motion for discussion.
There is a motion and a second for discussion amongst the Board of Commissioners.
My question isn't, I don't understand what is happening, because they're doing this project already, or I don't understand what the endorsement is needed for. Because they're already doing that.
They're doing it. So the purpose of the letter is to get a higher scoring within the National Forest grant scoring system. The National Forest distributes millions of dollars throughout the millions of acres, of which Idaho is 63% federal. And so this letter of support could possibly assist in the Sam Owen Campground receiving the funds necessary to improve it and to continue the Owens family legacy of perpetual access to the lake.
That is not what you just stated, was not presented in your
So,
packet.
I will read the letter then.
Well, I'm not asking the letter, I'm asking so we've had this before where you've wanted to provide letters of support for things that have happened in the community to increase a business's opportunity to achieve something. And I've been in opposition because that is getting in the way of winners and losers and all that. This is a little bit different, but what you're just describing doesn't go through why are they requesting that Bonner County provide this to them in order to achieve something, or that's what's missing from what you handed in my packet?
But
It's
the Commissioner, if I could suggest to you to turn the second page, there is the letter right in.
I see.
That's the letter. So
I saw the letter from you.
So they are requesting the Recreation Vehicle Advisory Council members.
Yeah, I've read the letter, but the advantage of it is not stated in this.
We support the Forest Service efforts to make these improvements to modernize the campground by better addressing recreational vehicle use and
I
access.
read the letter. So what I'm saying is when you just made a comment about the purpose of the letter is to increase their ability to obtain grants. because of funding. So is that something that they're needing to move forward with? That's what I didn't understand on this, because I hadn't seen one for this type of project before. Because typically when it is already established, when they apply for the grant and the usage justifies it without a letter from the board. That's what I'm wondering, is why the board is needing to do it.
The board does not need to do it, but the grant cycle, we are entering into the fiscal year 24 grant cycle for these different projects, similar to a campground grant that was applied for and then later rejected. This is a campground grant that is intended to provide improvements to residents of Bonner County and our visitors for access to recreation on one of the premier parks donated by the Owens family.
Anytime you're applying for grants, you're on a scoring system where you rate somewhere in the preference. And anytime you can raise your score, that may move you ahead of Boundary County, Kootenai County, Benewah County, etc. And so that gives you a better shot at your next grants on federal land. So,
is there any further discussion amongst the board? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Yes.
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 The motion carries. Our next agendized items are commissioners' reports. And, thank you, Madam Clerk, for putting in the order so I don't mess it up. And today, it appears that I get to go first. So I do sit on a number of boards where I get the opportunity to attend additional meetings. Last week, I went to the Panhandle Area Council, which is it's a business incubator that utilizes different funds to provide opportunities and fundings. And some of the examples of the project that they have funded, they funded the car wash, Ponderay Car Wash, and they funded improvements at different businesses throughout the northern counties. And I attended. I am not a banker. It was very interesting sitting with bankers and listening to bankers, but I am in support of all things that improve the lives of North Idaho residents. Last week, Bonner County, there was the local emergency planning committee that was held on December 14th. And there was a gentleman who was the director of hazardous materials from the Burlington Northern Santa Fe Material named Justin Piper, and he gave a presentation on rail hazmat safety and response. And normally when I hear, and Pastor Kubiak was there, normally when I go to a meeting and someone tells me I'm going to put out a lot of information, I don't necessarily believe them. This gentleman put out a torrent of information, and I walked away with a much greater degree of confidence in the competency of the Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railroad. And more near and dear to my heart is our emergency management team, because there is such a good relationship between them. 99.99% of all Burlington Northern Santa Fe hazmat shipments reach their destination without a derailment-caused release. But it is that 0.1% that we are so highly focused on. And Burlington Northern is an incredible partner, and there is a relatively significant change within Bonner County, which will be Burlington Northern taking over or absorbing back into their rail system the Montana Rail Link tracks. But listening to this gentleman talk about crude oil, fat, hazardous materials, alcohols, diesel, ethanol, gas mix, all of this, I feel much better as I look at those trains carrying that across our county, knowing that they have staff members that are that professional, and that Bonner County has the organization and the plan where we are proactively looking to address these types of contingencies versus the reactive. And we will react when appropriate and necessary because accidents happen. But I want to communicate to our county that there are plans, and not only is it the emergency management, but you had 7B cares, you had the hospital, you had fire departments, and any of you meeting junkies that want to go to an interesting meeting, I would advocate for you to go to the local emergency planning committee, because there is a lot of work that is put in, and I hope that you never have to actually find out how well they can serve. And normally you just get to hear someone like myself just being grateful that that work has been done prior to that type of situation. Last week, the Board of County Commissioners also approved the RFP for our audit, and we have submitted it according to law so that we can get our independent audits done. And I am excited to say that I have heard that there has already been questions being fielded by our operations manager. And this is the first year in 20 years that I am aware of where the Bonner County Fairgrounds operation is going to be included. And I think that there's a significantly important distinction that may have not been ably communicated by myself. And I'm looking at Clerk Rosedale to make sure that I don't muddle this too much. The independent audit, which is required by law, goes by fiscal year. And because we are including the fairgrounds operation, the audit will include the fairgrounds operations for fiscal year 2023. In order for Bonner County's audit to meet state law, it must be completed by June 31st.
It has to be filed with the state by June 30th.
It must be filed by June 30th. And so because of that, and because we are including the fairgrounds operation for the first time, that component, whether discrete or blended, must or should be included in that audit in order for us, Bonner County, to comply with state law. And last week, finally in closing, we heard from a constituent who brought forward the book of Ezekiel. And I would put forward that in this nation, and with the wisdom of our founders, I would bring forward something from the New Testament, which was, in those days, a decree went out from Caesar Augustus that the whole world should be enrolled. And this was the first enrollment when Quirinius was governor of Syria, so that all went to be enrolled, each to his hometown. And I think one of the things that's amazing about this is that 2,000 years later, we still celebrate that holiday. And personally, when I think about that, that's magical. One of my favorite presidents is Ulysses S. Grant. Ulysses S. Grant, I believe, was tasked with probably the most difficult presidency in the United States. For any of you who have done a home remodel project, you know that it is easy to break something, but putting something back together is difficult. When I look at what is going on in the Holy Land right now, wow. President Grant adopted and signed into law the first federal holiday, which was Christmas. And that was so that there could be peace and hopefully a restoration between the continued aggressions of Northerners and Southerners after the most difficult period in American history, where 670, approximate 1,000 men on both sides and their families dealt with the loss of loved ones. And his words are what I will leave everyone with, which is, let us have peace. Merry Christmas.
Amen.
District 1.
District 1. I want everybody to have a safe holiday. No falling on the ice. We want to see you back here. And God bless each and every one of you. That's my report.
District 2.
Alrighty, I'm going to start with Commissioner chats, just to kind of give an update. And for the record, anybody that wants to be on a chat, you can actually just call. I was so happy to call some people and they had been waiting to be invited to be on a chat. So we're going to have an intense learning session because I allowed them to choose their dates. No, January 9th will be the first chat. That is going to be Army Corps of Engineers. I'm breaking up that grouping into kind of their topics because it is dense, and I know you guys all have questions. And they all reserve the right to say we have to do another chat. So we might be doing Army Corps of Engineers more than once. So the first one is actually going to be regulatory and permits. Please be nice. Regulatory and permits. The second one on the 16th is also going to be Army Corps of Engineers, and they are going to be wetlands, natural resources in Albany Falls. We may have to break that up as well. They were very excited to participate. They've seen the chats as a way to really communicate with the community and get questions answered. I encourage everybody that has an interest in planning development to come to the Army Corps because they hold a lot of questions from the community. And I will say, even in reaching out, I let planning know, and they had indicated that they hadn't been able to make those contacts. So this is something for us all to participate with in a constructive manner. On the 23rd is the Area Agency on Aging. They are going to bring a panel. And I encourage everybody in the community who knows community centers to encourage people to come to that chat. It's an opportunity to see what they offer in the community, but also to see that limitation so we know where we as people need to fill that gap. They do a lot throughout Bonner County, and we rely on them a lot in the rural areas, but we also need to know what that really reimbursement looks like. And so they will be there on the 23rd. There will not be a chat on the 30th because I will be at a conference. And I will post all this so you don't have to write it down. I just got back this morning. So legal corner, this is a tough topic, so I was trying to hold off on this. I'm going to tell you some of the requests I've had of legal. So I've spoken with the prosecutor a lot. I did watch Tuesday's episode. I have sent a request for compliance with 31-1511, which is signatures required on the warrants and the method of payment. That is a legal opinion that I want a review of. I also have a request of our legal team to have a discussion and a process by which we receive legal opinions. So the example I'll give you is if I ask, can I fire person A? And legal says, no. That is the answer. But if I bargain down from firing and then I get an opinion that comes from legal and then I present it to the community and say, well, legal reviewed it and approved it, that really wasn't their opinion. They were trying to mitigate the risk of a dysfunctional decision that I wanted to make. And so I am asking that legal stand on their opinion with our board, and then it is up to our board to accept or reject the opinion. But when we water down the opinion, we create more problems on the board, in the community, and for the issue that was brought forward to begin with. So I'm asking for clarification from legal on how they present opinions because it creates a problem. The other issue is the archiving of records online. This was brought up by Mr. Brandon Kramer. I did send that request over to legal. They have not given a response. I will say I do not see how legal could say we can't archive online because once we've released records into the community, they're in the public. So there is no reason why it can't go online. I don't agree that the board tables it and says we need to review, but the person that does the tabling does not actually send that request over to legal. And I'm going to start asking the community for more help because I'm only one person and we have a lot of things that are getting put off by this board, but the follow-up of saying, you told me you were going to ask for that legal opinion, there needs to be follow-through of the person that does that. I will always respond and do it, but we need to also recognize that there needs to be follow-through of some of these decisions. There is a significant issue that I have with discussion that took place last week with respect to the fair. And so it comes down also to when the board receives legal opinions that we don't like, the board has a tendency to ignore everything that was written. And I need to clarify the opinion that was given on the fair because it was not correct. Lewis Marshall told all parties involved to include the board and the clerk's office. He reviewed the meeting from last week. It appears that the BOCC has chosen to disregard legal advice and has decided that the fair is analogous to an independent taxing district. Additionally, now the fair will be considered a component unit for the purpose of the 2023 audit. There really wasn't any rationale stated by 2023 is different from previous years. The opinion of my office is the fair is an integral part of Bonner County. The analysis is much deeper than simply the juxtaposition of two statutes. Additionally, the Ada County case from the 1970s talked about the role of the fair treasurer and made it clear the position was more about, go ahead.
Pardon me?
And made it clear the position was more about bookkeeping convenience and did not exclude the position from being an employee of Ada County. While that case was about workers' compensation, it gives us guidance on how the Supreme Court sees the relationship between the counties and the county fairs. I didn't come to this legal opinion by using crystals. I used Eid Bailey and a law firm, and then I gave Tony an opportunity to change my mind. I don't have a bad relationship with Tony, and I'm 100% open to listening to him and Mike as to why I'm wrong. As I have stated many times recently, we are simply trying to give you the best advice possible. I'm confident that we have. That is not what was communicated, and we have to take those opinions for what they are. Because from my position as a commissioner, if I receive a legal opinion that I don't like, I need to provide a legal opinion that says why that opinion is wrong. Otherwise, I am telling you as taxpayers that we all need to absorb the outcome of a decision that is not legally recommended. And that leads into the same issue of trying to bargain for different types of opinions when we don't like the answer that we get. And I am wanting our legal team to stand strong on opinions that they get, because I want to hold them accountable if I take a position and it's wrong. We can't afford to continue with litigation in Bonner County at the rate that we are and the disregard of our legal advice. With respect to the auditor, so there is, we need an auditor, and the board approved the request for the quote. I do have an issue, and I do have a question to legal, and I will have a question of anybody that we've already used of providing an audit. When you use the same firm repeatedly, greater than 3 to 4 years, essentially they become auditors of their own work. And so the reason that you look for others and you cycle it is to prevent that from happening. I do not want to waste Bonner County money. We need a true audit of what we are doing. And it should not be guided by what the board wants to see. It should be guided by what the statute requires and what the auditor does. And so regardless of who ends up doing the audit, I will have a concern of using a firm that we have used for greater than 3 to 4 years repeatedly, because that is not best practices in auditing. And with particularly the fair audit, there has been a constant comment about just moving forward. No, we had an event in our community that was a negative impact fiscally. It was a negative impact in the homes of people, in the heart of people of Bonner County. That demands an audit. We're not going to be able to change that. And for regardless of what side of the position of what happened at the fair and their finances, we owe that to the family that it directly impacted. We owe that to the taxpayers of Bonner County. And that does not come by me telling you the guidelines by which you focus something. It is a true audit that I am going to advocate for. And I am saying that way because I think that the community should encourage all those that are taking part in identifying someone to actually do a true audit of Bonner County. Because for me, the question that I would ask, if someone said, yes, I'll audit you again, and you've already audited me 8 times, how is that within best practices of auditing to make sure I get a full audit of truly what has happened? So that is an issue that we'll address as it comes up. I'm hopeful that we'll get a true audit and that will address the fair, because we have families that are hurting. We have communities that want answers, and we owe it to them. I will say that kind of watch our step on that one. That's one to be involved in. The other watch our step item is, man, these executive sessions are not labeled at all. And so when you're trying to find something, we have no idea where it is. There is no record of it. And then, for example, if you participated with any of the stuff, that's my nice word, from last week, Executive session on fair personnel. Did we discuss that? We agendized it. We didn't discuss it. We didn't do anything, but we went into an executive session over it. People need to start asking all of the commissioners to say, what are we here for? Because we're allowing issues to go into that black hole of executive session, and it doesn't bode well for the community, the county, or employees. We didn't talk about fair board personnel, and I was very vociferous of, that's what you agendized. Why am I on the phone for this? And it wasn't anything we discussed. That's not okay to the community, because people came here to hear that, and we didn't talk about that. We need to hold those persons that are putting things on the agenda accountable for what we're putting on the agenda, because it isn't just an agenda item. You have people that feel some kind of way about seeing Fair Board on the agenda, about seeing human resources on the agenda. We owe our community greater, especially as we're decreasing the involvement of the community essentially at these meetings. Because I know I walked in, and I can tell even when I walked in and I saw camera, I was like, oh, he's wearing a suit. And I was like, this is like the Men in Black of Bonner County now. We're not, this is not, it doesn't feel like it used to feel when you could come here, didn't matter whether you agreed or not. But we have to start stepping up as the community. I say, my other one is we have issues that have not been addressed that keep getting tabled. Again, we have property, it's snowing, people slip, people fall, people work, workers' comp, increased claims. Where's the workshop? If a commissioner says, I'm not going to vote for it, but I'm going to put it on a workshop, they need to put it on a workshop. And the people that are in the audience hearing that need to say, where is the workshop? Because we do not have somebody managing our property. We spent $10,000 on a water heater because we weren't managing that property. That's the reason I brought it forward. We have not addressed that issue, and it has come up every single week since then. So I am encouraging people to ask that. Given the new changes of this particular meeting, as you guys go through the agenda, I'm going to start publishing the week in review portion. You can send me a question. I try to anticipate what I know people want to ask of the people that are standing up here. With respect to upcoming events, I do have an adjustment to make. On the 20th of April, I'm doing the Spirit Valley Town Hall, and for my district, they wanted a voter guide, and I said due by the end of January. But I need to change that to due by the closing of noticing to the clerk's office that you're going to run. I didn't intend to not be in line with that. I was more concerned with how much work it's going to take to get it out fast. I don't want people to feel obligated to tell me they want to run before they want to run in that district. I just want to be able to have the information available so I can send it to print to distribute it to Spirit Valley, because that particular district feels that the lack of a voter guide is why the number of people voting is low. And I would like to try this experiment to see if I can get more people to vote. So ignore the January deadline. It will be at the end of the closing of noticing that you're voting, to make sure I'm fair to people to run their own races. And so I will still ask, are there any questions for my District 2 Commissioner report or clarifications you need? Anybody can ask. Yes, ma'am.
Susan Bowman for the record. So you are saying hold the board's feet to the fire on these things. How do you recommend that we do that when our freedom of speech is, being battered over and over? Like, we can't even speak now on agenda items. So, and I've asked already at least once, maybe twice for the workshop, but then it doesn't happen. So do you have a recommendation about how we can, hold their feet to the fire, so to speak, on these items?
It may have taken 5 weeks, but we got Zoom back because we increased attendance, and we talked very loud until we got what we needed. And I think that until we start seeing that practice, that we have to, unfortunately, and some of it I think takes being able to recognize that this is exhausting of a process, and we need to allow people a timeout to say, okay, we have our number of people going, we need a break because it's exhausting. I also think that people have to start putting your comments into the sphere that's greater than just this meeting. I know that people don't feel like we have, a voice in some of these papers, but people are allowed to write comments in those papers, and it needs to be put out there that where is this in the scheme of Bonner County business, not just silencing the people? Because if it's valid to keep saying, where is the property manager?
Yeah. Where's the property manager?
Verbetta, I'm working on getting all that stuff, better be very specific.
You went too fast, I didn't catch it all.
I just said
heard
Verbetta. Yeah, what's up?
But that's still in there because we're talking about auditor. But yeah, that's why I'm talking now, as you.
I'm gathering those records so that I can present that information to you in the form that I said of all those things, and I will do it for all of the community.
So I'm gonna try to make this a little more general right now, whatever, but I do.
For the record.
Pardon me? Kevin Moore for the record, thank you. A year or so ago, numerous of people in this room right now met over at Priest River School, the junior high. You were all doing debate type questions to where you were wanting people to vote for you to become a person, authority here. And so one of the questions at the close to the end of the debate, I'll call it a debate, there was a gentleman, hopefully you will all remember, he was on the right-hand side as you guys were sitting up in the stands, and he brought up a question. Of course, I'm paraphrasing now because I don't have a record of this, but he said something to the effect about if there was anything that really came that was questionable, would any of you have a problem bringing in a private investigator? And I might be using the wrong terms here, but hopefully you get the gist of what I'm saying. And all of you on that panel that day, there was 10, 12, whatever people sitting on the gym floor or whatever, you all answered in the affirmative.
Kevin, I have to pull you into being specific to my report though, because it's not open.
This is about
to
auditing.
the question, because otherwise it sounds like a public comment, but what's your question to me?
So the question is hopefully that the auditing, hopefully the board will be on board with auditing.
Sounds good. I did forget to mention something. One of the things that I said I was running on, not just litigation management, but medical freedom. So I've been working with a group of people on the COVID vaccine. A lot of information has come out. I'm actually gonna find a way to publish it so that you guys can review it. But there is, it's already been circulated to a couple pharmacists and a few providers in Bonner County of looking at whether or not Bonner County as a county want to continue with the vaccine in our area or support a movement based on some evidence that has come out. So I will provide an update on that once I get the full thumb drive. We had some of the medical providers that testified in Congress and some more additional medical findings that have come out that warrant more of they were trying to push more at the local level of elected officials to help with this particular issue because it will hit at our Panhandle Health, which then will give directives that people have to comply with based on federal guidelines. And so there's a push to see if local elected officials can positively impact in the direction that their communities want to go. So that's more to come on that. I'll probably put that video up by the end of this week, though. Yes, ma'am. You're too slow, Christine.
Diane Welly for the record. On your comments about the executive sessions, I'm just curious, when you three are no longer commissioners, you are simply members of the public, is that correct?
Yes.
You are no better, you have no more influence, you're just us.
We are just you now.
In the middle of an executive session last week, both on Tuesday and Wednesday, because it was continued into Wednesday, both past commissioners showed up here, one of whom walked into this area back here in the middle of an executive session. And I'm curious why we're not allowed as the regular public, but they are.
So the problem that you have with executive sessions is a person can say, I invite this person to an executive session. And so if you have a majority of the board that say, I want other commissioners to help me dictate what I'm gonna do, and they come to a meeting,
but they can do that. Commissioners. So
if I had the majority, if I had the majority on this board and I said, Diane, I'd like you to come to this executive session, and they voted in that way, you could do that.
Okay, that's my question.
That is why local elections matter, so you elect people that you want to be in those positions that make decisions like that.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Christine?
Approximately when was the request to?
You state your name for the record. Thank you.
Christine Logue, for the record. The request for a workshop, do you happen to remember or recall the date specific to that?
I don't.
And a
It's
timeline?
like 4 weeks ago, I think, at this time. I did agendize the item as a regular meeting item to discuss property management, and that was the day that it was, the request for a workshop was asked. Or they didn't advance the issue, they said they wanted a workshop.
A workshop?
Yeah.
Okay, I remember something, but I couldn't remember a date and wondered if that was something that you had offhand.
I'll get that one to you for sure. Spencer?
Good morning, it's Spencer Hutchings. Welcome back, Asia. Glad you had a safe trip. You guys can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
So, yeah, I was kind of curious about some of the executive session stuff and some of the rules around the, I don't know, unauthorized meetings between commissioners or whatever. And I'm kind of wondering, because it was reported to me by a couple different people that some of the former commissioners, or one or more of the former commissioners, was going back and forth between Mr. Bradshaw's office and Mr. Omont's office. And I'm wondering, if since they can't have a meeting outside, just openly just have a meeting together, what's the rule around them having somebody go back and forth and carry a conversation for them? I mean, if that's what's going on. I just thought that was kind of odd and kind of underhanded and I don't know, just a little bit slimy, but
I'm not going to be able to, I can't impact things like that. I'm trying to focus on what I can impact, and that I do understand the concern. I did hear the same thing, but there's nothing I can do if something like that's happening. So I'm trying to focus on what I can positively impact in Bonner County. Mr. Kramer?
Pardon me.
Is this public comment now?
No, I'm going to step in as the chairman. To begin with, this had nothing to do with your report. The lies that are being propagated by some people are completely disrespectful to the members of the public, and I am going to pull it back to the order of the agenda. If Commissioner Williams, if you would like to entertain comments in regards to your report, that is great. But what will not be tolerated by the board is straight up lying in regards to the actual events. Let me speak unequivocally. First off, there were 2 members that were here last week. And the lies, can I be more clear? Whether it is a lie of omission or commission, a lie is a misrepresentation of truth. When Jeff Connolly came up because he was at the Panhandle Forest Collaborative, he never entered into this room. So whether or not he may or may not have gone back and forth, I have no clue, because you know what? Commissioner Bradshaw and myself were in this room in executive session. As a matter of fact, I never even discovered that he was in our office where he worked for a number of years. So let me state unequivocally, lies are not going to be tolerated. And because of that, there will not be public comment today.
So I'm gonna.
This meeting is recessed.
Wait, just one.
It is 10:23.